Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt, the moderator, DeAndre, here with Bill Goldberg. So you got another seat in the garage, moved around a little bit.
We're back.
Yeah, there it is. Supercharged, Hammy. Man, it's been a lot of buzz in the news, all the changes that's going on with Dodge. Actually, let's get into that, but let me just hit Bet Online first. Bet Online is the world's most Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Even if your bracket is busted, Bet Online has more ways to stay in touch with the action with free Sweet 16 bracket and live betting on the remaining tournament games. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to MLB, NHL, and MMA, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with the odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Okay, Stellantis has been in the news. Dodge has been in the news. We're already seeing massive discounts on the Dodge EV. We kind of knew that was what it's going to play out. Like I didn't mind them getting into EV like other companies offering some options, but they took the one thing, and I know we've kind of beat this horse to death, but they took the one thing that's their enthusiast muscle car and they just said it's going to be an EV when probably wasn't the strongest move. And then they backed
That
it
boy,
up.
that's the understatement of the fucking year. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about Tavares making $42 million to tank the company in a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And like I told you before we came on the air, the best thing that Dodge has done in the past year is do the Super Bowl commercial with Harrison Ford. And it's not because of the novelty of him saying, my name's Ford and I drive a Jeep. It's they're leveling the playing field now, and they're using the marketing strategy that the other brands strategically used in offering options and giving the consumer an option. If they wouldn't have shoved the EV down people's freaking throats, they wouldn't have lost all the mainstream or the bulk of the bulk of their following. I mean, not only with all the BS with the jailbreaks and the markups, at the same time, you're saying, okay, these cars are special. They're one of ones. We're going to charge you this much money. And oh, by the way, you better get them because we're not going to offer them anymore. Right. It didn't make any sense. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to see that the playing field is going to be leveled. And I'm telling you, and I've been telling you off camera for a long time, it's not only going to be leveled, but we're coming back with some serious force. And there's some things that I don't even know about that are extremely exciting. And, we obviously know that I've got some very good relationships with all the higher ups, whether it's at Ram, whether it's at Dodge, whether it's Stellantis. But it's nice to see the brand making a comeback, and hopefully the last year and a half didn't damage it too much.
Yeah. Uh, there's a bunch of things there. First off, the Super Bowl commercial, the Jeep commercial with Harrison Ford. I thought that was well done, simple, and you're right. The message was it was clear. The message was we're taking a new approach, and his example with the Jeep, he's like, you want the gas engine, you want the plug-in. It's like we have options. You get to choose now. Like
Yep.
come to our brand and you get to choose. And that's something that we've been saying here for a while. And then when Dodge came out with the Charger EV, they really kind of pushed that. And what was weird about it was the enthusiast side of car companies, often considered the halo cars, but the enthusiast side are the ones that speak the loudest, right? Get the most press, the most social media stuff, the most YouTube stuff. So for them to jump into EV with their muscle car, well, essentially killing the muscle car and replacing it with an EV, was such a loud statement for Dodge in particular that I think I you're right. Like everybody just felt kind of hurt. Like everyone that
Hurt.
was
Yeah.
supporting it, the brand, and like in your case, having multiple versions of the muscle car, and they pushed that for so long, like a decade of Chargers and Challengers and Fast and Furious movies and your commercials and Mayor of Musclehood and 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 doing this really cool thing with like upping their game, going, you know what, we've got this, sure, we got this long in the tooth platform, but we're just gonna, we're gonna do Hellcat and we're gonna do Red Eye, we're gonna do Demon, and then we're gonna do like, and you're right, and the jailbreak cars and last call cars, and they just kept milking it, but made some fun options with everybody. Well, all that did was just keep pushing that muscle car enthusiast agenda. And then to just
At
pull
the
the rug
same
out.
time of pulling the rug out, knowing that they're going to pull the rug out from people or put up a fucking brick wall, right in the middle of their desire to acquire something that they've been accustomed to, which is high horsepower, internal combustion engines. And there is a time and place for everything. Don't get me wrong. I always talk crap about the EVs, but hey, if you want an EV, then get an EV. That's your choice. And that's what life is all about, choices, right?
Yeah.
And so I know they drove a lot of people away from their brand once they shoved the EV down their throat and they got rid of the Hellcat program. And all I can say is with the big man coming back, whether he's at the helm of Ram or whatever he's at the helm of, you cannot tell me that his understudy is not listening to everything that he has to say and not vicariously working through him. They all should, and there's nothing wrong with that, because you're bringing the guy back who brought SRT out, right? And
Yeah.
he's the guy who put us on the map in the last 20 years, 10 years. And, he was tired of where it was going. So he leaves. And then again, you can't tell me that by bringing him back, they're not going to handcuff him. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So whether it's getting into NASCAR, whether it's getting into to off-road racing, I would imagine, and I'm correct in this, it's going to hit the Ram brand before it hits the Dodge brand, because obviously Dodge is still pushing the Daytona, right? And now it sounds like very soon they're going to be coming out with, the 392. I heard that there was a little issue with the front suspension as far as the fitment of a Hellcat motor in there. That's been rectified. So, I mean, we know it's coming back. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you've got people's excitement and you've got their attention again. And is it enough? Well, we're going to see with what they come out with. I truly believe it is, because I have all the faith in the world, in Tim Kniskis. I really do. I mean, and I'm not a shill for him by any stretch. I'm not on their payroll. I just love their cars and I love what he did. And now with him back, I'm going to love what they're doing in the future. I can guarantee you.
Well, I think with the management change, there were still a lot of people at Stellantis that were, for lack of a better term, they were biting their tongue with the old CEO as to, going, he's the boss, this is the direction we're going. I don't necessarily agree with it. And then when that change was made with a new CEO, of course, bringing Kniskis back, but overall, I think there's sort of a breath of fresh air going on, going, good. I don't
That's a
have
freaking
to,
mild understatement, because you take the handcuffs off of guys like a Mark Trussell
yeah,
and let him do his thing, which is what he is all about. And I mean, it's an exciting time. And in speaking with all of them, they're extremely excited. They have a breath of fresh air in them. They're reinvigorated. And I believe that by letting them loose again, we're going to come up with some serious stuff. And I'm hearing rumblings, but I'm not going to repeat them because I don't know exactly if they're true or not. But I'm just saying, man, it's coming out in the Ram brand first, and Dodge will follow suit. And I guarantee you it's going to be freaking awesome, and I cannot wait.
So, but you asked the question, is it enough? They took the Charger EV, they pushed that heavily. We know sales are very, very weak on that,
Well,
but
that's an understatement.
well,
I was at
but
the dealership the other day, and the only way they can get them out is, have people lease them, or whether it's uh, employees, getting a great deal on the lease. There were a plethora of them on the
yeah.
lot. I don't know how many of them they've sold, and it's going to be almost impossible to get rid of them, I believe.
So here's the question: Is are the EV sales slow because people didn't really want the EV, or is it because they already announced some interesting six cylinders that are going to start production in May, the
Well, they
Hurricane
knew that was
engines?
going to happen. That was announced in the
People are
beginning.
waiting for that. And then are the six cylinders going to take a hit in potential sales because now there's an eight cylinder, a year from now?
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It's the reality of the situation. Unless they mark the price down in these Daytonas, I don't believe, they're going to have to give them away. They really are.
Yeah.
And there's rumor of a four-door coming out.
Yes, which they're going to have to do because look at the sales numbers of the Charger four door versus the Challenger, right? Like,
Crazy.
and you talked about having options. Yeah, you got to have the four door and the two door, and you've got several of them both. So, and honestly, it's like as cool as the Challenger is, you were driving the four door more than you were driving the two door.
If I had the choice over the two, it'd be hands down the Charger. Hands down,
Yeah.
no question at all. There's for me, there's no comparison. But again, it's about choices and it's about personal preference. And I'm a bigger guy. I like the four door. I like the ability to put people in the back seat without them, eating on their knees. And it's a quicker car to begin with.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a question for you. You went out to the Radford School a while back and drove the Charger EV. I know it's difficult to separate the EV experience, but the car itself, assuming the car is a six cylinder or eight cylinder or whatever, how do you like the overall car versus the Charger or the Challenger now?
It's an entirely different. It's not apples to apples. It's
Okay.
truly not in just the design for me. Even though it's got 325s all the way around, it doesn't look like it in the rear by any stretch. The
Right.
wide
Okay.
body needs to be accentuated, even though right now it's a wide body in its original stance, but it doesn't have the bravado that I almost said bravago.
That's okay. That's why we named it that.
100%. As I said, interior wise, the car is unparalleled in the space. I believe the interior is fabulous. Um, Aesthetically, it's bulbous. If I had to say one word, that would be what it
Yeah.
would.
Okay.
And performance wise, I don't know if any EV out there is performing anywhere near what internal combustion engine guys are used to, but this truly EV muscle car, you have to play around with the settings and you have to know what's going on to really
Yeah.
get it to do the things embryonically that you're used to be able to doing in those things behind me
Yeah.
by just flipping the throttle.
Okay. So the interior you like, there's more room, there's better tech, it's more comfortable overall.
It's
The
just
exterior,
aesthetically, it's gorgeous. I
yeah.
mean, it
And you like
flows
the look of
well.
the car.
Not, I mean, it's bulbous. It's not a true muscle car look, I believe,
Yeah.
uh, because
But they haven't done the variations on it yet. They haven't done
absolutely.
an SRT or they haven't done potentially whatever Hellcat version of
But
whatever they're
does
going
that
to
change
do.
it aesthetically? I don't
Well, I
believe it
mean,
does enough. That's all I'm saying.
Like, look who's the head of design over there. Somebody would say yes. Like, what would Trossel do if he can put pen to paper with his team and go, hey, we've been tasked to doing a high performance version. We're tasked with doing an SRT version. Like, what do we want this thing to look like? And he's, I think what we know about Mark and his design language and his team and what he's done previously, I would think yes, he's going to do something
If it's possible, they
aggressive.
can. If it's possible, they can do it. And I've been surprised many a time with what they come out with, and favorably. So yeah, it's back in the right hands, and it's just the existing models right now. Man, it's gonna be tough to get rid of those, dude. It's gonna be
But look,
tough.
I'm I haven't driven the EV yet, and I want to drive it. I want to say Alistair went out, did an Edmunds U-Drag video. They took their Charger EV versus the Mustang Dark Horse, and the EV was significantly quicker. Just launched hard, it's all-wheel drive. It got around the U-Drag quick. I, does that make it any more fun than the Dark Horse? I don't know. It did. You're right. It's different.
It's
I'm
it's
definitely
not
interested.
visceral. It's not
Right.
visceral, and car guys want to feel it, and you can't feel it. You feel as though you're riding along, and you're not in control, and you feel like it's an AI generated vehicle. It's not a purist vehicle, and I don't want them to hold that against me, but it's the truth, and I have to state the truth. I'm not going to shill for a brand and say that I love something if I don't, because people will absolutely shit on me, and
Yeah.
because they know that I speak my mind. And there are elements that make you feel as though you're in an old school Dodge, but there are not nearly enough to pull the trigger price point wise.
I'm not, I'm not discounting what the Hurricane engine, 500 horsepower, six-cylinder can do for that thing. That's going to be pretty interesting to me. Look, they're going to have the V8. They're probably going
Listen
to
to
do
the
some.
listen to the RHO owners right now. They're not happy.
They're
They're not
not.
happy not because they know that the V8's probably coming back. They're just not happy because of the performance in it compared to what they are used to. It's nothing
Right.
compared to what the old TRX is.
Right. So that was going to be the thing is there's some expectation, predictability here. If we know a V8 is going to come back in the Charger, then you've got a room behind you that's a benchmark of expectations, right? You're going, it's got to be, marginally better than everything else you have sitting behind you.
Yeah.
The six-cylinder doesn't really compete with anything. It's not like Ford has their EcoBoost. Yeah, it's cool and it's decent horsepower, but it's not 500 horsepower. That's more than the Dark Horse is 500 horsepower. So can you get a six-cylinder with that kind of power before you jump to, well, I don't know, 700 horsepower?
That
With
doesn't sound like a washing machine.
Yeah, right. So will it sound good? And look, when the when the Raptor came out with a six, it came out with an eight, and then it came out with a six, and people were like, "Yeah, the six is there. It's got some potential. It's not the eight. The worst part is it sounds terrible." You know,
We're reliving history, but with a different brand. That's
yeah.
all we're doing. And you would have thought that they would have learned from that experience.
I but I am curious to see how will that vehicle. It's a bigger vehicle. It's a heavier vehicle. What is it really going to come in at? Is the six-cylinder is the Hurricane engine the benefit going to be a tighter package, a lighter weight? Maybe that engine gets to sit back a little bit further toward the firewall, a better balanced car. Now, maybe that's not the Charger audience, right? Like the Charger audience was never really,
But
I
that
don't
would
know.
be fine. That would be fine because that's an option. You have the
Right.
option to get that, right? Compared to the others. And maybe it's a better package to invite more people that are more concerned with the environment. I don't know what they were
Maybe they just
thinking.
want to push more of a road race car, and then when the V8 comes out, they can double down on the drag racing, message of like the Demon 170 and stuff. Just going, hey, you know what? If you really want to throw this car around and have a really good balance, 500 horsepower six cylinder, plus that's just before you breathe on it with the aftermarket. Where do you go from there? You're at 600 with the aftermarket, and
Well,
it's a
you just
nice
pray
little.
to God that people like Magnaflow and Richard Watus have something available to make it sound like it's guttural. You
Right.
know,
That's going to be a big thing they're starting production of that in May. So I don't know of many people, certainly not, I don't think you or I, that have heard it in the Challenger outside of Dodge. Anybody outside of Dodge, have they heard that? But you're right. I mean, they can only do what they can do, but they're not ignoring it. They're not going, who cares how it sounds? Obviously, somebody cares how it sounds, you know?
absolutely. We all care how it sounds. Every person that was in line to buy the new vehicle gives a shit about the sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
You
it'll
know,
be interesting, and you're right. V8's going to start showing up in the trucks again. Well, now that's kind of interesting because when you look at some of the competition out there, like you look at what Ford is doing, um, and I don't know that this is if buyers of the F-150 have picked up on this, but the 5-liter Coyote engine isn't really available in the higher trim levels F-150s. If you want like a Platinum or a King Ranch, crew cab, it's like it's their EcoBoost engine. They don't offer the V8 in it. If you want the V8, you actually have to step down a little bit in trim. And then so you can't get the high end trim. So what you've seen recently is guys like Anderson Composites, they took an F-150 to the SEMA show and they took a standard cab two-door F-150 and then they had to go in with their own custom leather and the wheels and carbon fiber stuff, all because they wanted the Coyote engine with a supercharger on it. And then they're going, all right, well then we're just going to do a two-door regular cab sport truck because you can't get the four-door trucks with that engine unless you get again, you get a lesser trim model and then you miss out on some of the higher end features and maybe in the aftermarket you got to add them back. And yeah, I mean, is it a money thing or is it an EPA thing? Are they going, oh well, if we're going to do the bigger trucks, we can't sell a truck that gets 11 miles per gallon, other than something specialty like a TRX or a Raptor, like a Raptor R. They're like, we don't care. We don't sell enough of that. It's enough to offset. But if we're going to sell, if they sell 8 or 900,000 F-150s and let's say 200,000 of them were the top trim levels of Platinum or King Ranch, and they go, well, that's a lot to have V8s going 12 miles per gallon or 13 miles per gallon. Uh, what does that do to our fleet company wide EPA, carb whatever, miles per gallon rating? So they're maybe EcoBoost is the way to go.
yeah,
But again, for the enthusiast, I kind of look at it and go, oh well, that's a bummer. Took away that option.
exactly. Yeah,
They
and
took away that
option.
option. And if it's an EPA thing, they're basically admitting that most of us would have bought the V8. If you said, "Hey, there's a King Ranch, it's only available in an EcoBoost because if we offered it in a V8, everyone would buy the V8. We wouldn't meet our numbers." I go, "All right, well then it's kind of what are we going to do here? We're going to are we listening to what the government wants? Are we listening to the enthusiast wants, to your customer wants, and how do you meet in the middle?" And they go, "Well, you meet in the middle by buying a lesser truck."
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to satiate the customers, right? And obviously, you have to stay within the realm of what the EPA is doing. But I think that's going to change a little bit.
Yeah. Um, Anyway, it's kind of interesting. So the news all around Stellantis is bringing the V8 back. Mopar is starting production on the V8 engines again, presumably for crate engines and everything else. And listen, I'm not shying away from the Hurricane engine. I think there's something kind of special there. I like it even as a crate engine, as a potential project. I think the biggest downfall for it being as a crate engine is it's ugly. Like the
It's
plastic,
hideous.
it's hideous.
It's
It's an
hideous.
ugly engine unless you cover that whole thing.
They're
There's
not going to be able to give it away as a crate engine.
not
I'm
if they bring
sorry.
back the V8 probably.
No.
Yeah.
But if it was aesthetically better and it sounded a little better, then that's again another option, that's going to be cheaper and it's viable. But the way it sits right now, it's freaking hideous, man.
Yeah.
So, but that's
Um,
just my opinion, but I think it's an opinion showed by most of the enthusiasts because those EVs, and I'll say this again, at Roadkill Nights last year, I walked right by those EVs like they weren't even there,
they didn't catch your
and
attention. Just
oh my
visually, they didn't
God,
catch your attention.
no, I was drawn to the crate motors display,
Yeah.
and and it was surrounded by the Daytona. And man, I'd love to say I'm in love with it, but I can't. And I think that they're finally listening to guys like me.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, so I got I was on Instagram the other day and I saw your video and I saw all the cops roll up and not gonna lie, I know you're having fun with it, but I right when you said that, I was just like, Bill's finally getting busted for either burnouts on the property or shooting guns on the property, and somebody was calling it in, going,
Well,
"What
neither
did you
one of
say?"
those are illegal. I want you to know, number one. And number two, it's funny because right when I shot that video, I got a call from Barry Bloom, right? He's one of my managers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I said, Barry, I can't talk right now. I just got pulled over going 180 and look at who's here. And I showed him and it was funny because he's my manager and that he owns a Dodge Challenger
I do
because
know. Yeah.
the first thing that he said was, "What car were you driving?" Right. So and it led me to think, man, what car do I have that can go 180? Well, all of them except for the trucks.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm pumping 1,000 in the red eye. You got 1,700 in the twin turbo. My 6-speed, it's got I think 1,200 to the tires. So yeah, I could conceivably do it in many of these cars. The freaking Cobra could do it, but I'd take off. But I mean, Ernie Elliott said that car was worthy of 200 miles an hour when he built it. And while I'm on the Cobra, big shout out to Ron Francis Wiring because
Yeah.
they sent me a kit a long time ago, and it was a kit that I literally had to build. But we've got all the 99% of the wiring done in the Cobra this last weekend. And
Yeah. We talked about it
I'm
last week. You were just starting it.
well,
How'd it go?
we've almost finished it, man. And it's just all it is a laborious process that you don't want to reinvent on your own. And I had a guy come in and help me with it. And it was a painstaking process. There's no question. But, there needs to be tedious shit to make stuff like that not all 100% enjoyable that
Yeah.
is going to be laborious because it's just part of the process. Not all of it can be aesthetically pleasing, right? But it's aesthetically pleasing being able to walk around the Cobra and seeing wires, wire looms hanging out everywhere because it's progress. And XPEL is going to head out and they're going to rectify the situation with the wrap. And man, I'm doing fun stuff. Now we can start putting things together. Now I got the true knockoffs on the rear of the vehicle. We got to reach out to Willwood and see what they offer package wise with the 15-inch package in the front. But man, it's on the way, and I'm getting really excited. I right behind this camera here are all the parts that have been Cerakoted, and they're all still wrapped up. I mean, I haven't taken the side pipes out of the wrapping yet to actually see how cool they look. And I'm really excited, man. Really excited. It's cool to finally get the project to a point where it's restarted, and now people can tune in to see the progress.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like getting stuff done on that car, and that's been, kind of waiting in the wings for a long time while you were getting the garage situated. But yeah, that's a cool piece. You're gonna have fun with that thing.
It's
And
going to
yeah,
be killer. And another thing uh, that's exciting to me is, we reached out to Tremec, and Tremec's going to provide the tranny for it. They're providing the tranny for all these cars that I'm building right now. And one of the most favorable pieces of information that I got was that I can move the shifter up about 5 inches, right, from where it is. Because traditionally those Cobras are built to where, grabbing that stick shift, man, is
yeah,
kind of, you got to pull back, and then it's machined to where it makes it look like it's further up a little bit, but it's actually not, and it's a pain in the ass. And
yeah,
so the ability to kind of put it where I want to is going to be fabulous. I mean, I'm going from a top loader 4-speed to a 5-speed, and that'll be different because of the gearing and everything, and how's the car going to react. And but I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that wiring harness was the freaking stickler. It was the stickler. You can't do anything without wiring the damn car. You
yeah,
can't start hanging shit. You can, but then you got to reverse engineer everything. I want to put the windshield on. I want to put the side pipes on. I want to put this on. I want to put that on. But it's all going to be in the way of us putting the body back on. It's going to be a pain in the ass. So now that we've got the wiring harness almost completed, I mean, it's full steam ahead.
yeah. A big step that you needed to get out of the way, as like not one of the more fun steps, but necessary. And now that you get it done, you feel like this big sense of accomplishment. Going, thank God we just got the wiring done, or we're almost
Huge,
done.
huge, because then you can start hanging shit on it. Then you can start having fun with it. So yeah, I mean, and again, I could have done it most likely, um, but I was not gonna embark upon that one alone by any stretch. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I don't want to add too much time of labor into it to where I could pull somebody in here that really knows what they're doing, give them the day to set everything up, and then you're full steam ahead.
Yeah. All right. So to continue on, all the cops showed up. Everyone thought you were in trouble.
Rightfully so. It's not as if they didn't think that it was possible that I could get pulled over, but
Or pulled over. Like you were saying, it's not illegal to do what you do on the property. I just thought, just at one point it was just like finally somebody just got annoyed and called it in, which wouldn't be the first time. I remember down when we took the Cobra out before you rebuilt it down in Bonsall, and
well, that's Bonsall, that's California, that's
yeah,
like
some
Mars.
nosy
That's a
neighbor on the top of the mountain was calling it in. We got pulled over.
Yeah, and then they let us go, right? Because
Well,
they
and they
they
kind
knew
of
what
showed
fun
up.
was
They're
all about.
like, "Oh, it's Bill." They're like, "Not again." You're like, "Sorry, bro. We were just filming something." And they're like,
We're just
"Yeah,
having fun, man. We're just having fun. We weren't hurting nobody,
yeah."
except
And they were
tires.
cool about it. They were cool. They
Yeah.
were like, "All right, wrap it up. Let's go."
So to fill everybody in on the story that some people haven't seen yet, um, during Trump's State of the Union, he swore a 13-year-old kid that's survived brain cancer. He was diagnosed 6 years ago. He's had 13 brain surgeries since, and it's a kid named TJ Daniels. And to rehash the story, it's Friday, middle of the afternoon. Everybody's getting ready for freaking the weekend. We got the Final Four, in San Antonio, and people are coming into town. And I got a phone call from a number that I didn't recognize. And so quite obviously, like 99% of the people in the world, I didn't answer it. And it was followed up by a text message. And it was from a guy named Theotis. And Theotis is a very rare name. And so it popped right into my head as to what was going on. And Theotis is DJ's father. And he says, hey, we're in the San Antonio area. They're from Houston originally. They drove down. They had an errand to run in San Antonio, and they reached out and thankfully, and they just inquired as to how far away I was from San Antonio and was it viable to stop by and show DJ the garage. And man, I went into freaking overtime mode like instantly. When I hung up the phone. He sent me a text. He's like, "Okay, we're 58 minutes away." And I'm thinking, I didn't even think. It's Friday. It's traffic.
Yeah.
What app were you using? Did it take traffic into consideration? But I'm like, man, he must be kind of close. So shit, let's get going. So I picked up the phone and called a guy, Rick Goodrich, right? So Rick is in charge of all of the security for the Bernie ISD school system. And so he's over a lot of people, right? And a lot of different forces. So I called him. I called a guy named Clint Voigt. Clint's the guy who owns CGC, who did all the Cerakoting. And I called Mark Sierra. Mark Sierra is the owner of Compadres, and it's the restaurant that I'm associated with the Purple Heart Foundation. And those are the only 3 phone calls I made, right? Those 3 phone calls turned into at least, I'm not joking here, because I didn't film all of the cars that were here. Because we hid everything in the back, because when DJ showed up, I wanted it to be a surprise. Well, thankfully, I got a 15,000 square foot garage that hides everything, and I'm not inflating it by any stretch, but I guarantee you, within 30 minutes, there were 45 policemen here. The head of the Bernie ISD school system, the police chief of Bernie, the sheriff department was well represented. There was some PR here from both factions, and unfortunately, that 58 minutes turned into 3.5 hours, right? But the accumulation of people that you saw in that photo that stayed the 3.5 hours was unbelievable. And first and foremost, it shows you who your true friends are and what they're all about, because this was not a political stunt by any stretch of the imagination. Whether he was on, CNN, well, I can't stand CNN, but whether I saw him somewhere else or whether it was Trump's State of the Union speech, it didn't matter. It's not a political line that I'm going to draw, right? And I'm not going to be a Democratic dipshit like these people that stood on their hands and didn't applaud for this kid. That was probably one of the most frustrating things I've ever seen, human nature wise. Yeah. These piece of shits that wouldn't give this kid, the due that he deserves, because he was brought in, they thought, as a pawn, for prop. But that's dumb. But it is what it is, right? So fast forward to when he gets here, front door opens up, man, all the cops are standing here. The police chief's got a document in hand. Within 5 minutes, they swore him into the force. That was the 913th police force that he's been sworn into. He's gunning for 1,000, I think, to break a Guinness Book of World Record deal. But the smile on this kid's face, man, you know me, dude. Before I got to WWE, I was the Make-A-Wish guy. And, I might have eaten people in the ring, but when I got out, I'd have people in my dressing room that were guests, that were kids, that were afflicted with, a number of illnesses, right? Most of them were cancer. And to be able to do that at any time of your life, but especially right now, for me, was so fulfilling. I had more fun, I think, than DJ had. And we had DJ all over the property. He was feeding Presley. That's a video that I've got to put out. He was feeding the donkeys. He's feeding this. We went after the cows. He saw all the baby sheep that were born. I mean, truly, it was an unbelievable experience. The kid takes his shirt off, goes upstairs in the weight room and starts pumping weights, right? And he's got a smile on his face the whole time. And so as a human being, man, it was extremely fulfilling. And like I said, to see the friends that you have come to your aid and come to this kid's aid, it was truly awe-inspiring. And it was an experience I'll never forget. And, I do believe that he's going to show up to the Colorado spring game, and we're going to get him on the sideline, and Boulder's going to swear him in again. And all kind of stuff. But man, it's a human interest story,
It
and I was honored to be a part of it.
It sounds like fun, and then a little backstory on it. So you had mentioned, so DJ Daniel, he's 13, he's got brain cancer, and he was diagnosed years ago of having like 5 or 6 months left, and he's beaten that, but it was kind of, as a kid, it was his dream to be a police officer. So his dad had reached out to, I forgot which police department was the first. And he went and he met with them, and they made him an honorary police officer, and they gave him a uniform, and
He
it was
shows up in the
fun.
full uniform with the belt on and the
Yeah.
gun and the taser and the light stick, freaking everything. It was just, it
And
was
over the
awesome.
years, he and his dad have just gone out to reach out to more and visit other police departments to see how many honorary how he can become an honorary police officer for each department. And when Trump had him on during the inauguration, told his story, talked about healthcare, and made him an honorary Secret Service member. It's going, you've been doing this, you've got all these police departments. Let's put icing, put the cherry on top of the cake. And here's our new head of Secret Service. He's going to make you an honorary member. I thought it was a cool thing. I thought it was fun. I don't think he was being used as a prop because the kid's been going out to, like you said, over 900 different police departments and asking for this, and people are going, yeah, let's do it, it's fun, and he's happy, and why not? He made it
And
a
at the
mission
end
of
of the
his.
day, that's all the people should care about.
Yeah,
They
that
really
was
should
it.
take politics out of it. And the unfortunate part is that he's been cast into the public eye, and he's been bullied along the way. And there's a radio station called the Breakfast Club out in California that was responsible for part of it. And that's why I put, I stand with DJ at the bottom of it, because he can help the cause, childhood cancer, bullying. Let's let him carry the flag, and let's attack all the people that are stupid enough to go after a kid because he looks different, because his hairline isn't like a normal 13-year-old kid's. Like, he's got scars all over his head.
Yeah,
And anyone who would attack a kid like that, or even a human being, any person, anybody who would attack a kid like that needs to have the shit beat out of them. And either that or they need to be exposed. And it truly shows you the colors of people in the world. And it brought out the best, and it also brought out the worst. And we're going after those people who showed the worst.
yeah. And anyway, what you guys did there is a good example. He showed up, he had fun, but all the other people that showed up for you guys uh, were found a nice moment in time, right, for that day.
Yeah, a
And
lot of them brought their kids, and made them appreciate the health that their kids currently had comparatively to the story that DJ's going through,
yeah,
so it makes you appreciate everything you have, right? Your family, your health, all your surroundings. I mean, the whole story is tough.
yeah,
He's a single father. He's got three kids. One of them just got shot a little while ago. So I mean, they're not afforded the luxuries that a lot of people are afforded, and it's a tough battle. And to get this cancer diagnosis on top of it, and all the surgeries that follow, it's a heartwarming story, man. And again, simplistically, if I can do anything to put a smile on that kid's face, man, I'm willing to do it. A company called Grunt Style that I met with about sponsorship a couple weeks ago, I picked up the phone and called them, and gave them the 411 about what was going on. Man, they sent a package together for him that's just unbelievable. And they didn't ask, what side of the stick he was on. They didn't ask. They don't care.
yeah,
It's a human interest story.
yeah.
Period. End of story.
Anyway, that was fun. I'm glad he had a good time. I'm glad you guys were able to do that, and and have a big presence there, and have some fun for everybody that showed up to have some presence there, and you know, hopefully he's off to the next thing. Like you said, maybe it gets out to Colorado and stuff as well. But yeah, well, thanks. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate that. And I'm sure they did as well. All right. So before we wrap things up, I've got to bring this up because you're sitting here, and those of you watching on YouTube, you're in a little bit different location. You got the great cars behind you. At some point on Goldberg's Garage, you got to give us a walk around of the Porsche, right?
Oh
Because we
yeah,
talked about Wanda's Porsche out there, uh, and we never really got to take a look at that car to walk through, and even if it's just a couple of minutes, but you definitely got to add that to the checklist of things
100%.
for,
There's so many things on
for
that
the YouTube
checklist.
channel.
I'm meeting with a group on tomorrow uh, that's hopefully going to take over my YouTube responsibilities and get it back online and get the information out there to the people who need the information, who want the information. The fact is, I haven't done a complete walk around of the Porsche because I'm not the Porsche guy. And I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth and say the wrong things. But I think the reality is that people want genuine stuff. And I can genuinely say that I'm not the Porsche guy. And
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know, all of the intricacies compared to all the Dodges behind me by any stretch. But it's a badass car. You've been in that car before.
Yeah.
It's worth a hell of a lot of money now compared to what it was when I bought it. And I see why. I mean, there's so many Porsche enthusiasts out there that absolutely love that car. Chris Jacobs freaking loves the car. I mean,
Yeah.
Chris is the Porsche guy. But yeah, I mean, I haven't even done anything on the sleigh really. We're still trying to get the video together to put on YouTube about it. But then I got the hero cover guys, and let's just be perfectly honest, I ain't done shit on the Lawman,
Yeah.
right? But that's probably a 10-part series because you can't go over everything that car encompasses in a short period of time. You
Right.
just can't. And
Yeah.
I want to do everything. I want to do everything right, and I'm a perfectionist, and that's what's caused the delay. Is that I probably need to back off a little bit and just show it and walk around it and talk about it because the things I know about it are the things that 99% of the people in the world don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But look, you got plenty of content there. Don't rush it. Just organize it and figure out what you want to do and what order you want to do it in, and then you'll figure it out. But yeah, excited for it.
Oh, before we leave, I got a cool text last night. Yesterday was the 25th anniversary of Tom Mintz winning the world championship with the Goldberg monster truck out in Vegas when I had the cast of friends with me. It was I mean, let's talk back about that, man. I took Courtney Cox and Matt LeBlanc and freaking all those. It was unbelievable to think that they would want to go to a monster truck race. Number one was hilarious, but number two, I'll never forget it. We had such a wonderful time, and to think that it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And Matt and Tom showed me a picture of his new house that he's building, and he showed me a badass garage, right? And in the corner, it's still a very embryonic state, right? It's got walls up, it's got concrete, but there's nothing in it except for in the corner is the Goldberg truck.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that truck. I can't believe that was 25 years ago.
Oh God, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, on that note, all right, we're gonna
You don't
wrap
get my
things up.
walker.
Yeah. Well, you're getting back in the ring, so
Yes, I am, and I'm getting in shape again. Ha! Tomorrow, well, the day that this airs, I'm completely free physically. So I'll be completely cleared. And man, I'm going to start squatting again tomorrow. I'm going to start kickboxing again. I have no excuse. I can't say, oh, well, I've had to wait for 3 weeks. Tomorrow it's over with. So watch the frick out.
okay. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Until next time, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.
Boom.